You could be negative 68 cars and still be extremely profitable. I've got a very special guest today, and he's going to tell you how to do it. That's this week on Think Tank Tuesday. Hi, I'm Paul Potratz, and welcome to this week's Think Tank Tuesday. I told you I've got a very special guest this week, and I do. Good friend of mine, Don Boyle. But before I let Don Boyle talk, because you know how I like to talk over the top of people all the time. Not really, I'm just teasing Don. But so let me tell you about Don real quick, because Don, in my book, is a superstar. And why I say that is because Don is the number one Honda dealer out of a dealer group of 86 stores. And when I say number one, I know we can use number one in a lot of different ways, but what I'm going to talk about number one is he's number one in net to gross service. He's number one in net to gross parts. His Honda dealership is number 6 in the country. And I'm not talking about a major metro market here. I'm not talking about, we're not talking about New York City. We're not talking about Miami. We're talking about a market in South Carolina that, again, is not a major market. And he was able to do that in the market. And he's kind of a rare bird, really, if you think about it, Don. I think you're a little rare. Because to imagine to be at a dealer group for 17 years, you talk about sticking with it. That's amazing. A lot of people are jumping ship. So, Don, say hi, since I did that long intro and didn't let you talk.
Well, thanks, Paul. Thanks for the introduction, and hello out there.
So, exactly. So here we go. But I'm gonna ask Don some questions, and we're gonna talk about some things that he's done internally. And trust me, you need to tune in, and you need to gather people around this video, and you need to pay attention of what Don's done. So I talked about number one for service and net to gross. I think one thing that I left out is your fixed coverage. What was your fixed coverage at? I mean, it was at...
Yeah, well, Paul, when we started implementing our new program that we wanted to really focus on the service, everyone focuses on the showroom, but we wanted to make sure that we focus on both showrooms. That's the sales side and also the service side. So when we started, we were at 65 to 67% fixed coverage, and then last year we actually ended up at 137% fixed coverage. So when you can attain that percentage, that enables you to do so much when you're trying to retail a car, because you're no longer concerned about the profitability so much. You're more concerned about gaining market share, selling more cars, and then gaining people to come back in through the service drive.
So I think that's a perfect thing, too, because you kind of think about it. Because, we've talked about it where you would do the math and you'd say, well, you know what, this month I could be negative 65 cars. Granted, that never happened because, not only were you or not only are you a rock star in the service and the parts, but you did it on the sales part, too. But, just think about it. Going into the month, that if we do negative 65 cars, we're profitable. Because I like the saying, a desperate man can never negotiate. So now that kind of moves your focus on what are we going to do to get these deals.
Yeah, absolutely. We did double the business in new car sales, but what a negative number means is when your sales effective is so high and fixed coverage is so high that it gives you the ability to basically do everything you need to do on the sales side to hit your number, and it's a big advantage because you don't have the pressure that you have to make the money on the front end in order to still be profitable as a dealer. So it's good for the dealer. It's also really good for the manufacturer, because the manufacturer obviously wants you to continue to hit your number and to retail more cars.
Yeah, and so let's talk about service. Let's start with that. What are some of the things that you put in place in service? Or what would you say the number one trait is? However you want to roll. And guys, we didn't rehearse this. We just said, hey, let's do a video and share this with you guys out here. So what comes to mind when I say, what do you think the number one thing is you got to do in service to start moving this direction?
The number one thing is to make sure that you're very competitive in your market, okay? Because the perception is that the dealer is higher priced than the independents. So you got to make sure that you know your market. That's number one. Number two is to make sure that you're communicating to your customer that you're competitive, right? Because a lot of times they don't know that you offer tires, rotations, they go somewhere else for those things. But you want to make sure you communicate all your services and that you're competitive with those, and that you have graphics and other things that show the consumer that you've shopped and you've seen other prices, and you want to show them that, hey, look, our tires are just what Costco would be, or our tires what the independent would be down the street. And you want to get them into their buying habits of buying everything from you. You want to be everything to them. Retail car side, all their service needs, car washes, detail.
So what you're saying as a dealer, what you really need to do is find out in the market. I mean, because people are getting their vehicle serviced, they're getting all this stuff. But what would be the next step to really find out what do I need to do? How can I start to create these profit centers, I guess? How can I start to get more people into my service lane? And what's amazing to me is other dealers aren't doing it, but what was the step that you took to say, all right, let me pinpoint this?
Yeah, well, the first thing we did is we sent out a customer survey. And the good thing about your customer is they're going to tell you what they want and what they expect. And they'll also tell you where your deficiencies are. So we sent out a survey of our customers. We asked them how we can get better. We asked them about service hours. We asked them about shuttle service, loaner cars, things that we either had in place or we didn't have in place and we knew we needed to. The waiting area, do we have, vending machines, and do we have coffee? Do we have a place for kids to play? Things that, will help them while they're waiting for their car. Be a lot more consumer friendly. So we did that. We basically went out and said, how can we get better? And our customer told us. They told us that, hey, we would like you guys maybe to stay open an extra hour at night, because by the time I get off work and I drive over there, I can't, it doesn't work for me. So, they would put off a service and they would put off a service. And then when it was convenient, maybe on a Sunday, because they couldn't get their car serviced with us, they would go down to their local third-party service center, not the dealer, because they were open on Sunday and the dealer wasn't open on Sunday. So then we talked about whether or not we would be open on Sunday. And of course, you want to make sure your employees, have their time off and everything, but then you can do different scheduling to make sure that you're maximizing everything the consumer is demanding from you.
Okay. You mentioned one thing too, graphics. And I think we kind of skated over that, but talk a little bit about graphics, some things you did with graphics, because I'm assuming you're talking about banners and things inside the service lane and the waiting area.
Yeah, we did. We had, one thing we did with tires is we had a board that we made that showed our price on tires. It showed a big box store like Costco. It also showed the local tire center. And we just wanted to make sure that whether they needed tires or they did not, we would let the customer know that we offer that and we're very competitive. And we would show them our pricing against other competitors, and we would make sure that we were very competitive, so they would give us the opportunity to service their cars.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. So we talk about graphics in the service lane and the waiting area, doing all that, the banners and the billboards. But I think one of the things that, because I've seen a number of dealers that have the graphics and a number that don't have the graphics, but the website, I mean, you think about that. I mean, the type of things, you want to talk about some of the things we did on the website to be able to do that?
Sure. Well, a lot of things on the website, we put daily specials, weekly specials, oil change specials. We also maximized our email marketing campaigns. As you know, that if certain vehicles, every car in our database that we thought had about 60,000 miles on it, we'd send them a specific coupon that we thought would fit their needs. And that's really was targeted, and it really worked well for us.
Yeah, because I think that's what happens a lot of times. You'll see marketers, agencies, dealers, or whatever, and they're spraying and praying. They're doing one email blast, and
Right.
they're just, wherever it falls. They're not segmenting and saying, let me talk to that person specifically. So we talked a lot about digital marketing, or not a lot, but we talked about digital marketing, email marketing, and creating a message with clarity. In other words, not spraying and praying. But let's take it back into the service lane, and let's talk about the people. And what I really want to understand, I mean, I know you had people in place, but were they a team? Were they really team-oriented? What did you do because, I mean, it's great to do all the marketing, and you do all the marketing, you drive the people there, and
Right.
nothing happens because what?
Yeah, we had a team in place, and good team in place. We just knew we needed to change the process. right? We weren't getting the business, we weren't grabbing the market share, we weren't getting the service penetration we wanted. So we wanted to make sure that we were offering everything that we felt our customers through our surveys were asking for. So we changed up our training to fit the needs of our consumer.
Training and service.
Yes.
So did your team have clarity? Did they have process? I'm going to say, was everybody working together as a team? Were they truly a team when you came in or not? I mean, what did you do with that? I mean, how did you have new tools that you provided for them? And you said training, but
yeah, well, when I came in, you had different service advisors doing different things. So what we want to do is get everybody on the same page to get some consistency, not only for to manage our business, but also to give a consistency to the consumer, meaning that whether you went to Service Advisor A or Service Advisor D, you were getting the same experience from us.
I think that's lacking because, a lot of times, and I mean, even on the sales part, on the front end of the building too, that it's not a consistent process. But you see consistency more on the front end, but it's lax in the service. But, what's amazing to me is why don't we focus on service more and drive that? I mean, what were some of the numbers that you've seen with ROs and that type of thing coming in?
Well, we year over year, we continue to have double-digit increases in RO growth. And
why is that?
Well, because
I don't need a plug for me on that, but I'm saying why is that?
Well, the reason is because we listen to our customer.
Mm-hmm.
They said we were too high on oil changes, our pricing. They said that.
So did you do cheap oil changes?
We did.
Whoa, really? I mean, you lost money on oil changes? Is that what you're telling me?
Absolutely, yes.
That's really crazy because, and I agree with you 100% because I love what Don does on this because he sees you can see the further, I guess, the big picture of it. You see the big picture, and we have a lot of service managers that, like our team, will go and say, hey, let's do some discounted oil changes. Talk about discounted oil changes, though, in your strategy, because I want you guys to listen to this, because sometimes I just want to baby shake people, and I'm saying, somebody buys a car, and that car, they'll own it for 3, 4, 5 years, even though the average car on the road is 11 years, and they're going to get that vehicle serviced X number of times over that. So let's talk about oil change price and a strategy.
Right. Well, when you talk about oil changes, you're talking really about customer acquisition, because when you're spending $300 to $600 to $900 per car in your advertising budget, to do an oil change at $9.95 or even $4.95 or $12.95, you're losing a little money on what it costs you, but you're getting an introduction to the customer.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have that introduction, then your service advisor gives them, the same treatment that if it's a $1,200 service job, and then you have them in your database, you have them in your CRM, you can follow up with them, and plus the consumers gets to know what kind of customer
Kind of customer experience.
Yeah, what kind of customer experience you have.